I'm Tony Stewart, and you're watching The Skinny.
From the Fatheads Eyewear Studios in Speedway, Indiana, this is The Skinny, brought to you by Toyota, Rhino Classifieds, General Tire, and Dream Giveaway. This segment of The Skinny is brought to you by Toyota. Welcome back to The Skinny. Ken Stout and Rico Elmore, and special guest will join us here, Tony Stewart. Tony called us up. He said, man, you guys have been doing this show for a couple of years now. I haven't been on it for a couple of years. Well, what's it going to take for me to get back in there? I mean, do I have to beg, borrow, steal a slot? I mean, work with me here a little bit. We said, okay, we'll squeeze you in.
Yeah.
We'll squeeze you in. Because you got nothing else to do, right?
Apparently, I mashed my head against something really hard because I don't remember this being going down like this at all.
He's under concussion protocol right now.
Yeah.
So it's
yeah, I think this is actually what they call community service. So I'm actually paying off some community service by doing this show today. So,
in the interest of being respectful to Tony, it just came out. The Hall of Fame members just came out. Were announced here this past week during the Chili Bowl. So I wanted to announce the names along with. So Bob Fry, Eric Gordon, Terry Gray, Tim Green, and oh no, that looks like all the names right there. It's
pretty close. That's actually the way it kind of felt to me last week too, from some different organizations.
One certain group.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
And of course, Tony Stewart, man, congrats on that, dude.
Thank you. That's it was something really, really cool when I got the news for that. That's I don't mean any disrespect on the NASCAR side, but this means every bit as much, if not more, than the NASCAR Hall of Fame to me, because I've been around sprint car racing my entire life. So to be inducted to the National Sprint Car Hall of Fame is a really big deal to me.
You know, with all of your accomplishments, of course, your Cup championships, IndyCar championships, Triple Crown, all that stuff, is there one win? I know it's one of those questions, but I got to ask, is there one win that stands out?
I think there is for each different silo of racing. I mean, whether it was, midget racing, I mean, winning Turkey Night was a big deal. Winning the Chili Bowl was huge to me. Winning the Four Crown with sprint cars, winning my first World Outlaw race at Oshweekon was a huge deal to me. Winning at Lernerville. On the Cup side, I would say the biggest single win was still probably the Homestead race in 2011 that helped us win the championship.
That was like two races. You passed like three groups of cars.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, exactly.
I don't remember the official number, but it was in the 100 plus.
It was
number
the field like three times or something.
On official for position count. That's not counting lap cars that we passed. That's cars for position. And there's only 40, at the time, there were only 43 cars in the field. And to pass 100 and some odd cars for position means you've went back and forth a lot.
You earned it.
Yeah, what was the first one? What did somebody come down on it?
Kurt Busch's U-joint broke and went through the screen of the car. And we had pit for that.
Like the radiator or something, right?
Yeah, it literally at the end of the race was, when they opened it up, it was a quarter inch from the radiator is where it rode the rest of the race. And then the second one was contact with David Rudiman, who moved at the last minute to let us go. We got a big run on him, and I think he just saw us at the last minute, so I didn't think he was moving, so I started to move, and then he moved at the same time, and we punched a hole in the nose and had to come in and fix that. And
I remember you telling us before, you said on the radio, and that's it, boys. We ain't going to win this one. But
well, I actually sat there just to try to lighten the mood when it happened the first time. I said, man, they're really going to be mad when we come back and win this thing from the back. And I was joking around with the guys because I was trying to make myself feel better too, because I felt like at that point that was it. We weren't going to be able to get there from there. And then we drove back and then had the contact again. So being in a light mood, I said, man, they're really going to be mad when we come back and win this thing now. And was still joking around. Had no idea that we still legitimately had a shot to win it at that point.
And poor Carl Edwards, you had beat him up since the press conference and then came back and
Jedi mind tricked him all the way
yeah,
through.
We beat him up so bad that he forced him into retirement a couple of years later. I say that jokingly. Carl was a great guy, and in 2016 when I retired, at the beginning of the year, 2 weeks before the season started, I actually broke my back and missed the first 8 races of my final season in 16. And Simpson has been my sponsor forever on my safety equipment, and I got a brand new helmet for every race in the 2016 season, and different paint jobs on them, all different things that represented things that I was passionate about. And so I traded 24 helmets with 24 of the Cup drivers that year, and the helmet that Carl Edwards traded me at the end of the year was the helmet from 2011 at Homestead.
Wow.
He still had that helmet and went back and found that helmet, and that's the helmet that he gave me. So that's one of my favorite helmets, just because of the meaning. And I have a lot of respect for Carl Edwards, because he's a great person, and for him to have thought that much and put that much thought into what helmet he wanted to trade with me was pretty cool.
Yeah, I was going to say, and clearly mad respect for you for him to trade that helmet. That's great stuff. It's really the whole helmet game that goes on in motorsports that, honestly, for the fans, for the most part, I don't think they realize it. But, I mean, you've got Scott Dixon and all the IndyCar guys and you guys. I mean, everybody's swapping helmets. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I traded my first helmet with Elliott Sadler in 2000, and we were both rookies in '99 together. And after about the first third or quarter of the season, we were the only 2 rookies left out of the 7 that had signed up for Rookie of the Year. And so every Friday morning at 9 o'clock, we were in a meeting with Gary Nelson for the rookie meeting. And so it was just kind of, we got to be buddies that year. And then in 2000, I asked him if he wanted to trade a helmet. And, at that time, NASCAR money was really good money, and I could go buy pretty much what I wanted. But something that meant a lot to me was, how we all paid so much attention to what our designs were and our paint schemes on our helmets. And so I started trading, and now my helmet collection's over 350 helmets now.
Massive.
And I've touched a lot of them.
I think you shot almost all of them.
Well, I will say that machine, Carl was in there running the machine, and it was no easy task by any means, but Carl was in there running the machine, and by about hour 36, he was junk. And Tony's like, here, move over. Let me take over on it. Carl's like, now you need to do this. He like that, picks it up and starts running the machine, the 360 machine we've got, starts running it. And I just laughed and walked away. I was like, bye. I mean, it was like immediately he started ripping these things. And, but yeah, the collection is one of a kind. And to his point, what he said about the whole deal with, you kind of, it's one of those things, you kind of buy what you want, but that's something that you can't buy, right? It's got a personal attachment to it, and people that you're with and stuff like that. So he's been trying to get my go-kart helmet from '92, and I'm not going with that yet.
Just need an ashtray, or what were you looking for?
Well, can't find a place big enough to plant some flowers or an actual small tree in my front yard. So a helmet that big, you could probably plant a small tree. So
make a little swimming pool for the ducks or something.
Yeah, something nice, that's what he's looking for. But all right, well, good. Got that all straightened out.
So when I walked in, I said I hadn't seen you in a little while. First of all, congratulations on your 50th birthday. I know it was a little bit ago. Congratulations on your marriage, which just happened, a couple of months ago, I guess. What does Tony Stewart do in the span of a year? Well, he turns 50, he gets married, he starts SRX, and he starts an NHRA team. Other than that, I mean,
you would think
let's go slot car racing.
I'm getting bored again. It's like I'm running out of stuff to do already. So, yeah, we definitely we've definitely figured out how to cram 12 pounds in an 8-pound sack for sure. It's any of those individually. The birthday's not that big of a deal, other than it's just a milestone birthday, which my age says I'm 50. I act like I'm 12 most of the time, which averages out to a pretty fair number that I'm okay with.
I heard the gathering was pretty significant.
He was excited. I left the track in Houston with no warning, and he came over looking for me to talk about something, and he's like, yeah, he had to leave. He's like, he left. He didn't say he was leaving. Then he shows up, and I'm the first big ass he sees straight ahead when he comes in, and he's like, but it was pretty awesome.
I don't remember the story in its entirety, or if I even know the entire story. But part of it that I do remember was you guys got on a plane. You thought you were going somewhere, but you actually went someplace completely different, and you had no clue.
Well, earlier that week, that was the Houston weekend for NHRA, and that Thursday was my birthday. So we had planned on having breakfast that morning, and then I found out from my bride-to-be that I was not going to be having breakfast in the morning because she had plans, but I wasn't to know what the plans were. So we got up Thursday, ended up at the airport, got on the plane, had no idea where I was going, landed in Austin, which I knew we were in Austin because I could see the Coda track on the right-hand side coming into the airport. And I had planned in the afternoon, Leah had an appearance for Dodge. I had plans to go to Austin on my own to meet with Jesse James, who I'd got a gun for Leah for her birthday, because her birthday's 6 days after mine. So she had an appearance in the afternoon, and so we land in Austin, and I'm like, you got to be kidding me. We're in Austin. We're going to be flying back to Houston, and I'm going to be flying back to Austin again in the afternoon to go get her birthday present. And had no idea that she was working on a birthday surprise of her own, and had no idea where we're going. Some guy picks us up, and we get in the car, and we pull out of the airport, and I look at this guy, and I go, so what do you do? Trying to bait him into kind of getting a hint of wherever we were going and what we were there for, and didn't get anything out of this guy. But we pull up to a gate, and and I'm reading all these rules, and it's no kids, no this, no that, no blah, blah, blah. And at the bottom, it said JJFU, and I'm like, you got to be me, which is Jesse James Firearms Unlimited. And I'm like, so she brought me to see Jesse James. I'm going to be leaving here
to come back,
and then coming back in the afternoon. Well, what I don't realize is that Jesse's been in on this the whole time, and Jesse is he only knows about what she has planned. He knows what I had planned, and he found a way to marry them together without either of us knowing what the other one was up to. So we get inside there, and Leah had Jesse make me, he's got his cutlery division, and Jesse makes some badass cutlery. So Rico and I are big fans of the Pizzazz Pizza Maker, and 18 minutes, a perfect tombstone pizza or whatever pizza you want, Red Baron, whatever. He makes this really cool pizza cutter, and so Leah had got me one for my birthday and had my name put on it. And
the name is?
Smoke.
No, the name of the...
Oh, the pizza cutter is the Pizzacutioner.
Oh,
and the stand is in the
unique.
shape of an old school coffin that has a slot in it for the blade to sit in.
It is the most unbelievable piece.
It's cool.
It is like...
It's exactly what you would expect something from Jesse James.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's
Over and
straight
above.
Jesse James, 100%. But we go upstairs, and she gives me that. Well, Jesse taps me on the shoulder, and he turns me around, and in a closet, he hands me a box which has her gun in it. And I'm like, oh, perfect. So I hand her box, which is her gift, and we have a dual birthday, and then go meet these guys, and then we get on bikes and go ride to a barbecue place about a half hour away that he likes, and had a great day. So that was a lot of fun. And then when you think that's the end of it and everything's great and we have a good weekend at the track, but it rained on Sunday. Monday, Leah's still in the factory stock division, so she gets put out of factory stock, and then normally she likes to hang out with her guys a lot, and till they get loaded up, and she's like, all right, let's go. And I'm like, wow, this is kind of unusual. And then went to go see Rico. Well, he's already headed to Indy. I'm like, what the heck's going on here? It's not like him to duck out like that. We're not normally in a hurry leaving the racetrack. Get in the plane, don't know where we're going again, land in Vegas, and then I see him about an hour later after we land. So Leah's...
And that's when you knew things were about to take an ugly turn?
It just takes a lot of ugly turns. It looks like the gnarliest road course you've ever been on. But I'll give Leah credit. She put a ton of thought into it, and most people don't get too excited about their 50th birthday, but she made it very memorable.
That's
It
awesome.
was wild.
It was a good time.
Yeah, great stuff. We'll take a quick break here. We'll be back with Smoke here in just a moment. Plenty more stories to come.
This segment of The Skinny has been brought to you by General Tire. It's more than just a slogan. Anywhere is possible with General Tire. General Tire's Grabber X3 Mud Terrain tire offers aggressive styling and is engineered for durability with innovative performance features that are ready to carry you through extreme mud, dirt, and rock-covered terrain. For extreme traction that's ready for anything and rugged styling to match, look no further than the Grabber X3. Make your anywhere possible by visiting GeneralTire.com today.
This segment of The Skinny is brought to you by Rhino Classifieds. Tired of all those ads and random stuff that shows up when you're looking to buy or sell your car parts? Rhino Classifieds was created just for you. Welcome to a streamlined buying and selling app created by racers for racers and race fans. Modified cars, classic cars, race cars, that special big block you need, the trailer to move your baby around the country in. We got you at rhino.co. Welcome back to The Skinny. Stout and Elmore sitting alongside Smoke. Tony Stewart has made the trip north here to spend a little bit of time with us. We always appreciate that for sure, as he has been extremely busy. He's always very busy. But let's talk about that very successful SRX series, man. You guys kicked that thing off, and wow. I mean, what a buzz, dude. I mean, legitimate. Woke everybody up, and it turned out to be an incredibly good season. Great racing. You worked in some young guns, and some of those young guns really impressed, made a name for themselves right away. I know exactly what you wanted it to do. You had Paul Tracy pissed off the whole world. Everybody's watching because either they love him or they hate him.
The best villain ever.
The best villain ever.
I had not. I think I might have met Paul one time before that, and through SRX. Man, I love Paul Tracy. I think he's cool as can be. What you saw during the SRX races is not exactly his true personality. I mean, he's a super cool guy to be around and hang out with. But he did do a really good job playing the villain in SRX. I mean, he was not afraid to mix it up with different drivers, and I wasn't really around him on the track a lot till Nashville the last night, and I had sat there the week of that race and tried to figure out, okay, if I finish in such and such position in the first heat, and the such and such position the second heat, I only have to finish such and such position in the main to lock the points up. And sure enough, the first segment I'm behind PT, and I'm like, I tried to get under him a couple times, and he shut the door, and I'm like, you know what? I don't need to pass him that bad right now. I'm like, this is not, the risk versus reward weren't even close to each other. So I'm like, I'm totally fine with running behind him in this heat race. And but he is so cool to hang out with, and a lot of fun, great race car driver, and just he's a pretty cool guy. But he's really good at calling a spade a spade. He's there's no filter with him. He's going to call it like he sees it, but you know, behind the scenes and you know, what you didn't see with SRX, I mean, he's a really cool guy to hang out with. But he was awesome. Haley Deegan was awesome. Obviously, Castro Neves and Kanan, you get those two guys in a room together, you don't even talk. You just sit there and put your hand like this, and you just listen to everything they're saying.
Brazilians are off and running, man.
And you just sit there, and the next thing you know, you got tears running down your face because you're laughing so hard, crying at these two guys. They were fun, but guys, you know, hanging out with Bill Elliott again. I met Willie T. Ribs once, clear back when the Hoosier Dome midget race happened. Hanging out with Willie was cool. Michael Waltrip's obviously awesome. But meeting guys like Ernie Francis, which the great thing, I think that was probably ultimately the highlight, beyond winning the two races in the championship with SRX. Even more so than that, seeing Ernie Francis get a test session with Penske in an Indy Lights car because of SRX.
I didn't know that had happened. Oh, that's great.
Yeah, and it was just dumb luck that I actually ended up being at the Speedway that day with diehard contest winners with Advance Auto Parts to see him test. And I'm like, they said, oh, yeah, it's two Penske cars running. And I'm like, well, who's in each car? And it slipped that Ernie was in that. And I texted him. I said, hey, you at Indy today? And he goes, yeah, you in Indy? I said, yeah, I'm watching you. So we were clear up in the tower at the time watching him make laps. And so during the lunch break, I got to sneak away from our group and go down and visit with him for about 15, 20 minutes. And I think that's probably what I'm most proud of, was seeing someone like Ernie get a chance to get a test with Roger, to meet Doug Kobe and Luke Fenhouse. Those two kids really impressed me. I mean,
which one was the kid in Sanford? Was that Kobe?
Stafford?
Or Stafford, I'm
Doug
sorry.
Kobe. Yeah, and Doug's awesome. I mean, super talented guy.
He was on, yeah.
Was on a rail, and I learned more in 15 laps following him than I would have learned in a 200 lap race trying to figure it out on my own.
He's a machine up there.
He knows how to get around that place, and it was almost embarrassing trying to keep up with him because he just was super fast all night. We had a couple moments during the race where we got to keep up and racing pretty hard and kind of keep him pinned down where he couldn't get a run. But Doug was super cool. Meeting Luke and running with him at Slinger was a lot of fun. Probably one of the most mature kids I've ever seen for his age. Super switched on. That's a kid that deserves an opportunity. Kobe got a one-off truck ride for that deal at Stafford, and hopefully we can get Luke an opportunity in a truck or an Xfinity car because I feel like he's definitely got the talent to do it.
Slinger was cool.
Slinger was fun. I'll be honest, I had heard a lot of cool things about it, and I watched a YouTube video of it. I'm like, how are we going to race there?
It's like a big Anderson Speedway is kind of the way, or a bigger.
Yeah, I felt like we were going to be racing in a bathtub.
Yeah.
I'm like, how are we going to? And then I went and ran the first practice round, and I'm like, I can barely get around it by myself. I don't know how we're going to race each other around this thing.
Yeah.
And that was the one track of all 6 races that we ran. That's the one place I had the most fun racing at.
Oh, wow.
And
It was
packed.
unreal.
It was packed.
The fans were amazing. Stafford
The fans up in Wisconsin
and Wisconsin.
are unbelievable, man.
I don't care whether you run a midget in Wisconsin.
Yep.
I don't care what kind of car you race in Wisconsin. Wisconsin, in my opinion, has some of the best race fans in the
It is.
country.
I thought you were going to
period.
say food at the state fair when we'd race
That
there.
too. That too, and when you go race at Plymouth, Wisconsin during the fair, the fans will actually bring you beer after the races,
Cheese
which
curds.
never happens.
They're bringing bags of cheese curds and handing them to him. I'm like, here, I'll take them. I'll get them out of your way.
Yeah,
mean,
they
they're
brought
just-
cheese curds and beer. He got the cheese curds, I got the beer.
I mean, if you're not in the industry, you would think racers are coming from the South or coming from the West Coast. You don't think of, just naturally don't think of racers coming out of Wisconsin, but it is a hotbed of extremely talented racers across all disciplines. And then consequently, the fans, they pull for those guys, so they're knowledgeable. They know what's going on. I mean, it's short course off-road, huge up there, with Crandon and Anago and all that stuff. Bark River that's gone on for years. Bark River's Michigan, but, I mean, it's just really right across the way. But, yeah, I mean, those fans they're passionate.
They're passionate fans, but there's something about how respectful they are too. It's when you hang out during the night and you're racing, they kind of settle into their deal, and after the races are over, then they come down and like we never got in a hurry to leave when we were at a race in Wisconsin. I mean, there were times they're shutting lights off and we're still hanging out and having fun with race fans there because they're just that adamant and they're super respectful. We had a lot of fun with them. We were in a discussion with one of the reporters after the race was over, and they got a little aggressive for a while. And as soon as I got done with the media person, then I went and changed and stood outside and signed for a long, long time till everything kind of calmed down, and then guys were kind of recycling back around, and it's like, all right, we got to go. And that was also the race that Marco Andretti wins the race, and he was already at the airport, and he's like, hey, have you left yet? I'm like, no, I'm out here signing autographs like you should be right now. But Marco had ducked out. But no, it was the whole SRX thing was fun. It was cool to go to the Nashville Fairgrounds again and get to race. And I think probably my favorite part of the Nashville race was watching Chase and Bill Elliott get to race with each other.
Oh, my God, that was unbelievable.
And literally have the best seat in the house. I was right behind both of them while they're racing each other. I'm like, this is so cool because, it was cool that NASCAR gave their blessing to let Chase come and run, and Hendrick let him come as well. And it was fun. It was, something that they got to talk about the next day during the NASCAR broadcast. And, I remember what it was like to represent NASCAR when I ran IROC and how proud I was to represent NASCAR. And I think that's the way Chase felt when he got an opportunity to run SRX with us and race with his father. So I felt like there were just a lot of cool things that happened that year or with that series for the
first time
year.
ever at Eldora. Green flag lap, talking to a driver over the radio.
Oh,
That was fun. I can barely chew gum and walk at the same time some days, let alone try to drive a race car and talk on the radio at the same time. So it was and it was fun because I'm trying to think who was in the booth that night. Hinchcliffe. So
Yeah.
and we knew that we were going to try to do that. I'm like, man, I'll do the best I can, but I said I'm probably going to sound like an idiot. And
we're at lunch, and this whole thing's kind of like getting put together. I'm like, oh boy, this ought to be good.
And he calls just as I'm catching Marco. I'm like, man, of all times to try to talk to me, and he's like, well, what's going on? I'm like, I'm getting ready to give your boy an education right here.
I know, it was beautiful.
So it was
awesome.
fun. It was a good time, and we had great people. Pam Miller, who does a lot of the Fox broadcast, Pam orchestrated all the TV stuff and did a fabulous job, and we just had a really cool crew. It was fun because each week we had 2 RVs. That we split half the field up, so 6 of us would be in each an RV, and Marcus Lemonis and his group coming on board and supporting the series was huge for us, and just hanging out when we had downtime and wanted to get out of the heat and relax. All of us just sitting in there talking together was probably we wish you could have had cameras and microphones in there.
So we envisioned this show. I mean, seriously, that's kind of what we envisioned here.
And it was just fun. It was fun to sit there and have different drivers from different backgrounds, and we're all in the same place racing with each other, and everybody just had fun. It was just a good time for 6 weeks.
So the Montag Group is part of that as well. Is that correct? Yep. I mean, a large talent agency out of New York.
Yeah, Sandy is unbelievable to work with. He's got a great staff. Did a lot of the big legwork of doing the TV side of it and getting us on TV on prime time. So Sandy did an awesome job. George Pine had been with NASCAR for years and knows what it takes to put on a good series. But Ray Evernham was the spine and the backbone of this for all of us. I mean, we all fed off of Ray, and Ray with Tony Uri building great race cars for us to drive. And the great thing was he didn't want them to drive perfect, so he made sure that they were safe to drive, fun to drive, but at the same time they weren't easy to drive, and that made us have to work and do our jobs, and that's what made it so much fun.
Yeah, the diversity of the drivers, the race cars being very close, very competitive, the unique styles, different racetracks, the production.
Schrader testing.
It got big, yeah. Schrader testing, keeping all the cars, equal. I mean, oh my God, couldn't have a better person, right? But the production of it got, as I watched it, it got better every week. And some of that stuff, like I think they went to Elio's house and did a walkthrough and saw some of his trophies and where he lived. Some of that behind the scenes stuff, where they get in and bring these people to life. It was a fabulous production. I mean, I was looking at it from a couple of different eyes, if you will, in terms of racing and production. But it was a really nice job.
You want me to read the text that you sent?
Well, you know what? It's a race team. It's a race team, and you massage and you tweak, and I think you guys did that. And boy, it got better every week.
I think the things that we were really proud of from the production side were, nobody had ever talked to a driver during a green flag run. So that was a first, but the drone work that if you watched the World of Outlaws the last half of the season, and if you watched the shootout and the Chili Bowl, watching drones running around cars during green flag runs, that had never happened before SRX. Now it's common. Right. So now during Chili Bowl and the shootout, we saw it during the World of Outlaw races, and I think it adds another dimension that we've never seen. But that was ideas that Pam Miller had of trying to push the envelope and doing something that had never been done before.
The aspect of it is wild. I mean, it is. And so with that, and maybe you know, and maybe you don't, because somebody asked me, and I said, I don't really know, which is amazing. I pretty much know everything. But, does it have a follower, or is it, does it lock on to set? No. It's just an operator, right?
Yeah,
okay,
and that's just a drone operator, which I sat there when we were at Stafford and watched him practicing with that, and it scared me to death because I'm like, this guy makes a mistake, he's going to run into these things. If it runs through the windshield of one of these cars, we're in trouble. We got a problem. And I saw him during green flag runs because at night you can see the lights on it, and I thought, man, if I could make the car corner as fast as the drone can corner, we'd annihilate the field tonight. But the drone operators, I mean, were on point.
They're badass.
The one they had at Indy, the SRX race, I think the wingspan on it was...
It would pick your fat ass up, literally.
Are you going to let him talk to you like that, Stout? With that, you better go to break for a little bit, cool off.
No, it was because I asked those guys, because I saw it. It was huge. It was about a 6-foot wingspan. and it had six props on it. And I said, "How strong is that thing?" I said, "Could it pick me up?" They said, "Oh yeah, no problem. It'll
Really?
definitely pick you up."
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was amazing.
I've
how
seen them
big
at
it was.
Crandon with short course, and they were running near 100 mile an hour.
Yeah, they're
I mean,
super
it's-
fast,
and
super nimble.
The
But
operators are unbelievable.
and to fly high def cameras around there with the gimbals and all that stuff that they have to have on it. I mean, there was a lot of equipment hanging off of it, so they had to be stout. But to fly them around, I mean, like I said, they had to practice as much as we did, because you're sitting there on half-mile tracks where we're running pretty good straightaway speeds, but to be able to figure the timing out of, we have to get to the end of the straightaway, decel, be on the brakes, corner, then accelerate, and for them to figure out the timing of that and to be able to stay with the cars like they did was unprecedented.
Wild.
Nobody had ever done it before, and then all of a sudden you see it in different forms of dirt racing, and I'm sure we'll see it in pavement racing as well now.
Super cool. All right, we're going to take a quick break here. We'll be right back with one more segment. Tony Stewart, tell us what's going on in 2022. This segment of The Skinny is brought to you by Dream Giveaway. Dream Giveaway has been giving away high-end American muscle cars to raise money for charity since 2007. Dream Giveaway is known for giving away classic and new muscle and paying the federal taxes so the winners don't have to. For $25, you can jump in the game, and part of that goes to charity. You'll have a chance at winning some of the coolest cars on the planet. Check it out at dreamgiveaway.com. Welcome back to The Skinny, as we've been reviewing some of the stuff that Tony Stewart has been a part of in 2021. We want to look forward here to 2022. I'm sure that the pattern is full once again. We were talking about SRX. Will we see more of the same here in 2022?
Yeah, just signed up again for SRX. They've about got the schedule done, almost ready to release it, and we're working on the driver lineup. So I got some new guys that want to participate in the series. We kind of knew after going through the first season, we had a lot of drivers that wanted to be a part of it that were like, we don't know about these guys. But the guys we really wanted, it was hard to get the group that we really, truly wanted. After year one, now that there's a lot more guys that were on the wish list from year one that want to be a part of it in year two now that they've seen it. So
You don't have to say my name. It's okay.
I know well, you're on the first or second alternate list right now, but you're on the list. But
They're going to put
it's
the porta power in the seat. But
it's
anyway.
porta power. We're just building a whole new car that just the frame rails have to be widened to get you in there. That is the seat. But it's
gonna be
cool to
wall
see the
trip
guys
car.
that want to be a
He'll
part of
actually
it.
be able to fit in, and you'll be able to fit in.
Yeah.
The big boy car.
It's long, it's wide, it's for everybody.
So, touching on SRX, but I think the big monster in the room has to be the start of that NHRA team, man. I mean, holy smokes. 2 fuel cars, that's big league. I mean, a series is big league, don't get me wrong, but to go into a whole new discipline, truck, trailer, shop, those cars, all the spares, everything you have to have for that intense season. Man, oh man, what do you say? You sit down, you make a decision, like, yeah, okay, let's do this, and then the next decision is, who's going to do this for me?
He got
No, the
bored
next
again.
decision is who your therapist is that you see 3 times a week to
Well,
go
whoever that is,
to
you need
question
to
your
fire
sanity.
them because they clearly didn't do a good job.
Clearly they told you
you made the
something.
decision.
Well, I'd already made the decision, so now they're just trying to make it to where I can survive through this ordeal. But no, I'm excited about it. It's and everybody thinks Leah pushed me into doing this or asked me to do this. Leah was the last person to get on board with this. I made the decision that, after going to the races with her, I had so much fun, and with everything that we've done with NASCAR, everything we've done in open wheel racing, this just was a spark that I needed. There were so many questions I had about what was going on and why they did things the way they did it when I started dating her, that I really became passionate about it. And the more questions I asked, every answer that I got sparked 3 more questions. And then here we are. Now we've got teams in the shop, and everything that I learn, every time I learn something, I realize how much I don't know. The more I learn, the more I realize what I don't know. So I'm excited about it. I've kind of made a career and a life of doing things that people said I couldn't do. And I've thrived, and I love that challenge of trying to prove people wrong. But we've had the great thing about the NHRA community, and it started with Don Schumacher. I mean, The change was a little bit awkward for Don of purchasing 2 of his teams, but Don's been helpful through it. Alan Johnson, Antron Brown, Cruz Petragon, Ron Capps, these guys have all been very instrumental. Justin Ashley's team with Mike Green and their group. Just a lot of really good people that have extended hands out. The whole Capco team on the Top Fuel side have said, hey, if you need something, let us know because we're neighbors. Mike Salinas from the Scrappers team, just a lot of really good people that have said, hey, if there's something we can do to help, call us. And the NHRA community is a really cool community to be a part of.
From a business point of view, when you're sitting there and you're making this massive decision, and I'm sure you talked us through, which is why I'm asking the question, does it make more sense to have a fuel car and a funny car versus a fuel car and a fuel car, or a funny car and a funny car?
I don't know. I thought my mindset was kind of the mindset we have with, sprint car racing and the NASCAR program where we got cars competing against each other and sharing resources. But what I've learned in the NHRA side is every crew chief has their own different package that they run. So it's not all apples to apples all the time. I mean, you could have 2 top fuel cars or 2 funny cars, and you're going to have 2 crew chiefs that are going to want to do it 2 different ways and are going to be successful doing it 2 different ways. So I kind of like having one in each division. It's something that was very important to Dodge. Their drivers are Leah Pruitt and Matt Hagan, and that lineup was extremely important to those guys. So to keep the parity there with that program the way it is, I think fits really well. I think it's fun to have one car in each division to where you're not lining up against each other, knowing that one of them's going on a trailer and one's going to the next round. So you're hoping that you got 2 cars that go to the finals and have a shot at winning the event each week.
So help us out with the logistics of the team. Is this Tony Stewart's shop? Did everything move to your own shop? Were you able to keep stuff in Schumacher's shop? I mean,
this was a shell game. It was, we have Tony Stewart Racing in Brownsburg, and we literally had to take our merchandise side. Our building's kind of set up as a 70-30, I would say, percentage-wise. The 70% side was what was originally the USAC side when we had 2 midget teams, 2 sprint car teams, 2 Silver Crown teams. The 30% side was the World of Outlaw teams. Then when we got rid of the USAC program, we moved the wing sprint cars to the big side. Then we moved the merchandise side into the 30% smaller side. So through this process, we've got another building that's just down the street on the same road that we've moved the merchandise side, the All-Star Circuit of Champions offices to, our foundation offices to that building, and moved the World of Outlaw team back to that side. And now where the old USAC side was is now where the NHRA teams are. So it was all a sequence of this had to go before this could move over, and this had to move over before this could move in. So it's been a process, and especially for the NHRA guys. The World of Outlaw season ended a week before the NHRA season did, but because of the last race being at Pomona, it took half of the week for the guys to get back with that equipment, and then you got Thanksgiving. So right after Thanksgiving, everything's moving in, and you have the month of December and you have the month of January to get ready for a new season. And it's 2 polar opposite setups for our teams. We have the funny car team, which is basically turnkey. And then you have Leah's team on the Top Fuel side that is basically start from scratch, literally start from scratch.
Wow.
So you have cars on one side, the guys are just kind of working at their pace.
Was that by design, starting from scratch?
No, not at all. We thought we were going to get a lot more of the assets from Don on the Top Fuel side, but he is running Tony Schumacher this year with the same crew chief that Leah had last year. So they kept most of the equipment. We thought we were going to split it in half, and that didn't end up that way. So we basically were having to start from scratch.
Wow.
So, Neil and Mike Domagala and Ryan, they are thrashing, getting equipment in. And we literally sit there and can't wait to hear the doorbell, which means we have packages arriving, which has parts that we need. So every day when we hear the doorbell ring, we get excited. It's kind of like Christmas Day where you're excited because you get to see what's in the package that comes in the door, except for there's an invoice that comes with it that has a big price tag
deal
with it. So,
but now with all the logistical stuff going on, wondering if you're even going to get it.
Yeah, it is a absolute nightmare. The supply chain is terrible right now. But again, that's where Bob Tasco was one I didn't mention in that group earlier. Bob and all these other teams have sat there and said, if there's something you need, let us know. And that's the great thing about that NHRA community is that everybody's like, we'll make sure we get you enough stuff to get you up and going. So I'm very, very happy with the atmosphere with the NHRA side and all the help from the other teams of making sure that, if we don't have something that we don't think we're going to get in time, we start picking up the phone and making phone calls down to other shops. And if they have something that we can use, they're more than willing to let us get it from them. So it's a great community. It reminds me a lot of the sprint car community on how everybody works together.
Yeah. Sprint car team, that's what I was talking about yesterday. You have a team come off the track you're competing with night in, night out, and their crew guys are over there tearing a tire or a wheel off and helping them replace it. What Tony's talking about with the NHRA, which I've been around several years, but watching that camaraderie of people that are together, and I mean, not everybody stays the same place for too long either. So there may be, it's an exception. Tony's new general manager was with Force for 20 plus years. And, that's an exception to the rule because generally it's a performance-based thing. A new crew chief comes in, he brings in new people this, new people that, or you work under a great crew chief that's there forever. You learn everything you learn, and then you get to move somewhere else to move up. So it's a pretty neat program, and it's exciting. I still have the text on my phone where Tony texted me at 3:30 in the morning, which would have been 12:30 in the morning Vegas, to me and Sumo, one of our other great friends. Said, all right, I got to tell you what I did. And he texts us about testing the fuel car. I was like unbelievable.
Any aspirations of actually competing?
I don't know. And I've had that question a lot since we did the test and did the YouTube video that we sent out. And I've made 10 runs in Leah's car last year with Don, and I enjoyed it. I ran, the fastest I've run was a 376 at 322 mile an hour so far.
Getting her done.
And it had my undivided attention. I've never driven anything. The first 100 feet, it's gone before my eyes ever get from the light to where I'm going. It's trying to train your brain to react that fast. Leah can tell you exactly how far it carries the left front tire. When the light changes, I can't even tell you it has a left front tire till I get stopped and try to turn off the racetrack. I'm like, oh yeah, there are wheels in this thing, but there's
no
just
different
so
than you
much
getting in a
different.
sprint car though, and telling somebody entry, mid corner, exit. And something that happens in a second or something. It's getting your brain up to speed. I agree. It's seat time, right? It's seat time, but. Man, it's got to be exhilarating.
That was one of my favorites, too, when Antron was on talking about wrecking or talking about going down the track. It's exactly what he's describing, which I guess I never thought of because I'd never done it. I've watched it many times, but he's like, all right, it feels good coming out of there. Oh, it's standing up on that right. You know what I mean? He's like talking about all of these steps of the run. I'm like, he goes, and that's a 3.7 seconds.
Yeah, I have sat there and listened to Antron and Leah talk to each other about a run, and I thought back to the runs that I've made in the car, and I get out of the car, and I couldn't tell you any of that. It literally takes me till by the time we tow the car back to the pit area and you drain the fuel, then by that time, I'm starting to have processed all the information that's happened in that run and starting to understand it, but not to the detail that they have, but it's... When you hear people talk about we use 18% of our brain, I'm like, who came up with 18%, first of all? But where does that even come from? I truly believe that now, because it's no different than your muscles. You don't just sit there and bench press 400 pounds if you're a 100-pound person. You just don't do it right off the bat. You have to train to do that and build yourself up to it. Your brain if it doesn't have a reason to work harder, it's not going to work harder. So information and stuff that you're seeing, your brain's not going to process that information faster if it doesn't have a reason to. So as every lap that I've made in the car, my brain is starting to finally catch up. I've been so far behind the car, it's crazy. Now, my rear end sitting in it is in time with it, and my hands and my butt are feeling everything that it's supposed to feel and reacting in real time. My brain is processing it slower than what it's happening. And you get done and you're like trying to initially think what just happened, and it's like, I don't know. And then 2-3 minutes later, now your brain catches up and you're like, yeah, it did this when it left, and you feel this, and some of the things that Leah and Antron don't think twice about, and listening to Steve Torrance and Matt Hagan talk about their runs, and Ron Capps and Petragon. It's like I listen to these guys and I feel like a school kid going, wow, they felt all that in 3.7 seconds. Are you kidding me?
I remember my first exposure to what you're talking about was with my son running go-karts. He's 13 years old, his first year in the kart. Didn't have a clue what was going on. We were running with Connor Daly. Derek was out there on a regular basis, and I would confer with Derek. I didn't know what I was doing, right? Robert, my son, didn't know what he was doing. So I'm listening to him. Derek said every time he comes out of the car, I ask him what happened, entry, mid-corner, and exit. He said, and ask him to focus on one turn. And I remember the light bulb went on. Robert would come back and he'd say, I don't know what the car's doing, you know? And then all of a sudden the light bulb went on. And when it went on so quickly, I was like, I didn't believe him. I mean, he came back with information. I was like, there's no way that you know. Because he would say, it's lifting up the inside rear tire, but it's carrying it too far now. Or the back's driving the front. I'm like, are you serious? Like, you really feel all this? And, you know, if you look at the data and the amount of time that a cart's in a corner is less than a second. And he's processing everything that this thing is doing, you know? And same thing you're talking about. It's just at some point his brain wrapped around what was going on, feeling what was going on, and then the ability to feel it, but then to retain it and bring it back and tell somebody. That's a whole nother level.
Yeah.
I mean, it's amazing.
Especially on road courses where you have so many different types of corners and different banking and angles and this and that. But it went back to, you know, when I ran oval track stuff all the time and when I ran Indy cars, if there was a piece of material on the racetrack that was no bigger than the size of a quarter, I could see it if it was anywhere near the groove. And it's like, how could you see that running over 230 mile an hour at Indy? You can. Your brain learns to process that information, and it's all about the first laps that you're running. No, because there's so much that's new. The speed's so new that your brain's trying to learn it all and get used to it. But once your body and your brain starts getting comfortable with it, your brain will start slowing everything down. You know, when I watched her the first run when we met, I couldn't even see the car. I saw a silhouette of the car. I saw fumes, and it looked like it took a second and a half to get down there. Now, when Matt and Leah go down and make a run, it looks, I can tell you, I stand in the same spot behind the car every time for both cars. If it moves left or right, I can tell you how far it moved and almost tell you, I'm getting better at being able to predict how far out it was when it started making its move. But it looks like it takes 8 seconds to get down there, and it's sub 4 second laps when they go down, make a run. So your brain starts figuring out how to process all the information faster and faster. And when it does that, essentially it looks slower and slower. So you start picking up more detail of everything that's going on in that run.
I know you're very well aware of this now. I've always thought for years that the television side of drag racing, and I don't want to, this is going to come out worse than what I mean it, but it kind of does it a disservice because in order to shoot the race, it's always on the side, and it shoots the cars going down, and you want to see how close they are. That point of view is important. But what you very rarely see on television is that those cars never go straight. Right. I mean, they're like, you know, everybody's like, oh, it's drag racing, it's a straight line. I was like, I got news for you. They don't go straight. They don't even go close to straight.
Well, the funny car, when you see one of the drivers in it, and their hands are like this, and it's not turning.
Full lock.
You know,
if you do see it go straight, most likely it's a slow lap.
Yeah.
It's a slow run if you see it go straight because it's just not pulling as hard as it needs to. When it's on a and they're not, it's not like it's an out of control lap when it makes a fast lap, but most of the time on a fast lap, I mean, they still can run pretty straight. And I've sat there and watched a million runs for Steve Torrance and watched his car go down through there, and it goes down pretty nice. But to your point, they never go just like you drew a straight line down there. It never goes just dead straight. They have to drive.
Those monsters are trying to come out of their skin, man.
And then you get in a pro mod. Yeah, and they're not even made to go down the track, period, in the story.
Anybody that drives a pro mod, I think, is clinically insane. I mean, they got bigger balls than I think anybody in the world has to drive a pro mod as fast as those things run. Because as soon as those get out of shape, they don't come back. Like if you try to stay with it, you get it sideways and it rolls over, or the air gets under it and picks it up. Pro mods are the wildest thing to watch. But I mean, I love watching the speed and the power of the nitro cars, but I don't even like standing around the pro mods, but I like to watch them run, but from afar. It's like a pro mod scares me, and the guys that drive them, I'm like, man, these guys are crazy.
And you develop such a new respect for everybody. I mean, the pro stock cars, I know they're not as fast, but when you take a look at the lack of downforce those things have, and those guys, they get a little bit of out of shape, and it's like disaster.
Well, top fuel car, when you leave the line, you let go, you release the brake and get on the gas at the same time, and then you're just steering. Pro stock guys, pro mod guys, I mean, they're shifting and this and that. I mean, there's so many things that they've got going on. It like you say, TV doesn't do it justice. TV does a great job of broadcasting it and showing the races, but you really, to experience it and do it proper, you need to be at an NHRA drag race and see what it's like. To be able to go down in the pit area, to buy a ticket, be in the stands, and be able to walk down in the pit area and watch them in between runs tearing the cars apart. You don't have to buy a pit pass like you do at a dirt race or a NASCAR race that you can't buy a pit pass to. You buy a ticket to the grandstands, that same ticket lets you down in the pit area and lets you see John Force and Cruz Petragon and Matt Hagan and Leah Pruitt and see these guys working on their cars to take a motor apart, put it back together, do the warm-up, and get it back on the line in an hour is impressive to watch. So
and
to
not
be able
grenade one of them.
And they grenade too.
Well, they do, but I mean, they're humping, man, and sometimes the turns get a lot faster.
The turnaround is the further into the day, the shorter the turnaround is. So by the time these guys have done, you would sit there and think, they've only made 4 runs during the day. How hard can it be? Well, the amount of time that it takes during that day to do everything they've had to do to make 4 runs is incredible. So that's why I'm passionate about it. I mean, I love what I do with NASCAR, love what I do with sprint car racing. I just like adding this layer to it. It's pretty exciting.
You're a true motorsports fan, and I started my season off or my career off in drag racing, and then it morphed into short course off road and open wheel racing. And I've had people come at me and say, I don't like the drag racing stuff, or I don't like the oval stuff. I look at them and say, I have mad respect for the skid plate racers on a Saturday night, because they know something about that you don't know.
Yeah.
And if you think you're going to hop in a car and go out there and compete with them, they'll tattoo your ass.
That's the great thing about motorsports. It's not every division's for everybody, but I think once you get to a certain level, especially if you're at a level where you're involved with a team or you're driving a car of some kind, once you get to that level and have a deeper appreciation for what it takes just to do that one avenue of it, then when you see other avenues of it, whether it's NHRA or the off-road deal, I like off-road. I mean, I love side-by-sides too, and got into that for a while. When I broke my back this last time, it's tamed me down a little bit from doing all the crazy stuff that I like to do with it, but I love it. I mean, I never drove anything where I got all 4 wheels off the ground on purpose. Before in my life. So
other than your truck down in Columbus, but that's another story.
Thanks for bringing that up, Bud. I'm sure the Columbus Police Department will be really proud to know that I'm jumping my truck around home.
I think they did a video with you on that.
Yeah, they did. But I think when you get to that level and you get into it, it's you really, if nothing else, you appreciate what it takes to do each discipline of racing, and how under the rules that you're allowed to participate under, how people sit there and say, okay, this is the rules we have to work with, how they figure out how to make cars and vehicles, whether it's snowmobiles and snowcross to, arena cross and supercross to IndyCar, NASCAR, NHRA, sprint cars, you name it. all the different disciplines of motorsports. I think once you get into the middle of it, you kind of appreciate all of it in some capacity, and you might like one form better than another, but you kind of like all of it, like you said, just because you know what it takes to be good at whatever it is you're into the most.
And lastly, but not least, by any means, the pro stock bikes.
Crazy.
I mean, that wreck that they had this year, you had 2 seasoned veterans, and the bike it drifted. I mean, and they were deaccelerating, drifted, high-sided him off the bike. I mean, it was scary.
The pro stock bikes are scary, and then if you go to the Nitro Harleys, like they're kind of equivalent to the pro mods, if you will.
Oh my!
If anything
that's like a rocket just tied to it.
Anything that you have to not have the rider on it when you start it should tell you that it's not a good. That this is a really bad idea.
For safety reasons.
Yeah, because a push rod could go through your chest.
Cylinder head off of them, and it goes through your chest.
It's like this is a really bad idea.
If you have to wear a chest plate, that's a red flag.
Well, and I've stood there in the staging lane. I've looked at these guys, and I'm like, these guys have problems.
I said the same thing about drag boat racing, by the way. If you have to wear ballistic pants, that's a red flag. Oh, wait, what'd you say? You have to wear a parachute as well?
Yeah.
That's a big red flag.
I mean,
that's an issue.
Yeah, there's just... It's all risk versus reward. It's like, what are you willing to do what you love to do? And it's like it takes a special breed of people to do a lot of these different areas of motorsports that we're all a part of.
Hey, man, we appreciate you coming by here and what you continue to do for the industry. I mean, we loved watching you race. You're fiery. You're very good. You won championships. You gave us all great memories. You got out of the car, and your career continues to expand. All-Stars, we didn't even touch on that, but what you've done there and the drivers that are morphing there are second to none. SRX, what you brought out to us, NHRA team, you continue to deliver, on the smoke side of things, bringing to the industry and expanding. Thanks, man. We appreciate what you're doing.
I love it. It's I'm excited. I get to write some more time off on my community service today. It's I'm knocking that number down daily. And
I was going to say he's the champion of SRX, but you know what? I'm clearly not going to bring that up now.
Well, he's going to have to continue to do community service based on how he lives when he's outside of this.
I kind of like doing this community service. This is, Rico and I have been friends for a long time, and you and I have known each other a long time as well. And it's fun being with people that have a great appreciation for all of motorsports, and the stuff we get to talk about is stuff that on a normal show, in a normal interview, it's kind of a single silo of motorsports that you get to talk about. We're here, we get to talk about a little bit of everything.
And, we don't know
and most
what
of all the
direction we're
passion
going
that
in.
we all have for it. Yeah,
We're very well scripted.
Sometimes it goes in circles. Sometimes it just goes off in left field. And the guy
It's in
running
the
the
sand
board,
trap.
the guy that's running the board back here, he's nuts too. So it's like it's just a group of knuckleheads here that are having a good
What
time
was his
talking about
walkout
racing.
music, Michael?
That's right. That's right.
If you could scream it for us.
He's got his headphones on.
I can't hear myself. All right, guys. Another edition of the Skinny in the Books. Tony Stewart. Make sure you check it out. Thanks for being with us here on The Skinny. This episode has been brought to you by Toyota, Rhino Classifieds, Dream Giveaway, and General Tire. For the latest in sunglasses, optical frames, accessories, and apparel, be sure to check out fatheads.com. That's Fatheads with a Z. Production facilities provided by Fatheads Eyewear Studios. All rights reserved.